Hi guys, welcome to the Redflex, the only channel in the world which is run by four brothers who all support Manchester United and who all live in Manchester. So today's show is a preview for Manchester United versus Arsenal, which is going to kick off on Sunday at 4:30 UK time. So in today's show, we're going to go over some kind of key stats, some team news, maybe who should start, and also what I feel the score will be. I mean, I've got it wrong every single time so far, so probably what I say is probably going to be completely off, but I'm going to give a score prediction at the end. So just before we start the preview, it is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's 100th game in charge of Manchester United. He's got a win record. I think he's won 55 games out of the 99 we've had so far under Solskjaer. So he's done quite well. Still a lot of kind of media attention and expert opinion that seems to suggest that he's not doing well. He shouldn't really be the manager of Manchester United, but those stats kind of do prove otherwise. I think he's done quite well, to be fair. And we seem to be seeing a kind of new tactical flexibility, which will make it a lot harder for opponents to kind of read or kind of predict what the starting lineup's going to be, what our formation is going to be. So that might help us in the kind of long run and also in the short term as well, because we've got a lot of games coming up. Over that kind of 9,900 games, I think he's kind of instilled the old Manchester United values as well. So that's something I think we lost under the last few managers, and we do start to see that coming back, and that's probably why most of us have actually taken to him, and we do feel he's someone who's trying to bring us back to where we were when we were under Sir Alex Ferguson. One thing though, a lot of people do tend to say, which I do tend to agree with also, is that we still do not have a kind of distinct style of play. That's something we do need to work on under Solskjaer. Like everyone, if we watch Manchester United, we should know they have a style of play. Like, for example, with Liverpool, it's a high press. With Man City, it's a high press, but also a very kind of possession-based game. And under Manchester United, we don't really know what the style of play is. It seems to kind of mishmash the different formations. As you've seen, the last three games, we've played three different formations. What is the style of play? So that's something maybe we need to work on. But last few games, we've done well. So we can't really complain too much. It's a must-win game. So that is key. We have to win this game, and we have to win the kind of game in hand we have. If we do that, we're only 3 points behind the leader. So it's not all kind of doom and gloom, because a lot of people tend to be saying that, we've been off to a really bad start, which is true. We've won those 2 games in charge. We're only 3 points off the leaders. So that's not too bad considering obviously the start we've had. If we do finish that, if after the game in hand we are only 3 points behind the leaders, I don't think that's too bad. A lot of people would have been kind of okay with that at the start of the season. We were just 6-7 games in, and we're only 3 points behind. It's not too bad. There's a lot of games left. We've got a lot of time to try to catch up. Hopefully, we can finish in the kind of top 2 positions. Maybe it's unlikely we're going to win the league, but I think top 2, top 3. Man City not the same team as they were last year. I think that second place is up for grabs, although there are a lot of teams who think they can also finish in the top 2. So just in regards to the preview, as I mentioned, something that we are going to go through today's team news. So confirmed people who are not going to be playing this game, or confirmed plays for Manchester United, is going to be Telles. So he's not playing due to self-isolation for him when I think he got COVID last week, so he's not going to be playing. Martial suspended, and for Arsenal, I think David Luiz is injured. He's got a thigh injury, so he won't be playing for them. Have been doing quite a lot of research. In fact, I know Statman Harris isn't here today, so I've kind of been digging into some stats. Got some very interesting stats to share with you. So we've got some stats which kind of suggests that we will do well against Arsenal. So first one is we're unbeaten in the last 13 home games against Arsenal. Our last defeat against Arsenal was in September 2006. And since 2009, we've scored in every home game against Arsenal. So that kind of bodes well for us for the upcoming game. Some stats also would suggest potentially it's not going to be as easy as we may think it will be because of our kind of most recent result against RB Leipzig. Obviously we've only had 1 point from the last 3 home league games. We are obviously without a home win over the last 5 home games, also including last season, we haven't won a game. So that's our worst run since February 1990. And also, we are currently under our worst defensive record for the last 60 years. So 12 goals in 5 games. So again, taking those stats into account, it's unlikely it's going to be a 0-0. But it's unlikely also that we are going to kind of steamroll Arsenal. So I think there's a very high chance it's going to be potentially a high-scoring game. It is going to be a tight game, but potentially high-scoring. Also, another thing that potentially doesn't go in our favour is that we are winless against Arsenal in the last 4 league meetings, home and away. So if we take that into account, it's going to be a tight game. And that's something that we all need to kind of consider before we start thinking what the result's going to be. Another thing as well we need to look at is who should start. I've got a very interesting stat here that I found. Van de Beek has only played 64 minutes on the pitch in the Premiership, in the English Premier League. And out of those 64 minutes he's been on the pitch, we have scored 5 out of our 9 goals as well. So that's very, very interesting. That maybe shows he should be getting more game time when he is on the pitch. I mean, yeah, potentially it's been towards the kind of latter stages of games where teams have kind of opened up, or we've been kind of going for it. But it's very interesting. So if it's a great stat. 64 minutes on the pitch, and we've scored 5 out of our 9 goals over those 64 minutes. So there's a great case for him to start in the next game. I think he did really well against RB Leipzig, although obviously that means if he starts, he's not going to play in the same position as Bruno Fernandes. So obviously Bruno Fernandes is most likely to play unless he's injured or whatever reason. It'll be something like that. Otherwise, he's going to start. And if he starts, Donny Van de Beek's not going to probably play in his preferred position. If he does play, I think it's purely dependent on the formation we choose, the formation Solskjaer decides to go with. If it's a formation which can kind of accommodate him, then of course I think he'll start because he's got a lot of quality. He's very good on the ball, and he does like to track. He does like to win the ball back. So that kind of helps us if we're going to play a high press game against Arsenal. Then him being in the team would really help, because that's the kind of Ajax style of play, and he knows how to play that style. So it's interesting who should start. Because Martial's suspended, I would like to see Cavani start. I would like to see Martial on the left and Rashford on the right. I think Greenwood, I'm not sure if he's going to play this game, although he did score in the last game. So yeah, there's no reason for him not to start. Just depends on how we want to. If you want to go for kind of a lot of pace on the wings, then Greenwood's not going to start. It depends on the formation, depends on the style of play we're going for. If we're going to play on the counter, then probably Greenwood does not start. If we're trying to play high press and we're trying to keep hold of the ball and control the game, maybe Greenwood does start. So it just purely depends. There's a lot of kind of flexibility, as I mentioned earlier. Over the last 3 games, we've played 3 different formations. So that kind of, it's very hard to kind of work out what we're going to play. Arsenal have started the season playing a 3-4-3. They've kind of now reverted to a 4 at the back now. Just because of not being that creative. So Arteta has changed his formation. So again, we don't know whether he's going to revert back to his 3-4-3 formation, or whether he's going to play a flat back 4, and then 3 up front. So it'll be either a 4-3-3, or it'll be a 3-4-3. So that's kind of the 2 options I think Arteta has. And we don't know what Solskjaer is going to kind of go for. So we don't know. As Manchester United fans, I think it's very difficult for Arsenal to kind of work out what formation they're going to go for. So it's a really interesting game. Be very interested to see what the starting lineup's going to be, and what the starting formation is going to be. So that'll be really, really interesting. For me, the best formation is very difficult to say. I think we've played well in the last 3 games. Although Chelsea was a 0-0, I think it was a very controlled performance, and I think it was a performance that we had to have after our last home game against Spurs 6-1. So Solskjaer was never going to open up. So this is something that I did mention in the post-match show against Chelsea. So I think it's really important that we go for the right formation. If Arsenal do play 3-4-3, that means there's going to be space potentially down the wings, which would mean Rashford and Martial, if they're the 2 wingers Solskjaer decides to play, will potentially have a lot of space. So those diagonal balls might be something that could come into play because they'll have space out wide. And that's something we could try to expose them as they try to take their wing backs forward and try to push our kind of 2 full backs back. So that's something that could come into play. The key battle for me is down our right-hand side, which, so for Arsenal, will be their left. It will be, usually they would have Saka and Aubameyang down their left, and we will have Aaron Wan-Bissaka and whoever plays on the right-hand side of the midfield. If we can control them two, I think we'll have a good chance of keeping Arsenal under control, because obviously Aubameyang has a lot of pace. He can dribble, he can finish. Saka's great going forward. He can also dribble. He's very creative from that position. So I think that's really important. We need to kind of nullify Arsenal's left-hand side. We force them to go down the right. Hector Bellerin isn't great going forward. Well, not as good as Saka is. And depending on who they play, which could be Willian. So I think when he usually starts, he plays on the right-hand side. I don't think they're going to be as dangerous as the combination for Arsenal down the left-hand side of Saka and Aubameyang. We can control them. In the middle of the park, I'm confident we can control kind of middle of the park with the midfielders we have compared to what they have. So that's the key battle. Based on everything that we've said, or everything I've said, based on the stats that I've gone through as well, taking it all into account, my final prediction for this game is going to be 2-1 to Manchester United. I think we'll win this game, but the stats suggest also, at the moment at home, defensively, we're not great. As I said, it's the worst defensive record for 60 years. So that would suggest Arsenal will score. So I think they will score. And considering the fact that we are winless against Arsenal in the past 4 league meetings as well, it's going to be a really tight game. So Arsenal over the last 2 seasons are not as good as they are now. So we must take that into account. So this is why I think it'll be a really tight game. I think we'll win it 2-1. But up until the last 15 minutes, maybe, I think it'll be really tight. As I mentioned, I've not got any of these right so far. So I could be way off. I think this season in the Premier League is very hard to predict. So it could be a free scoring game. Could be a really tight game. There's been a lot of goals this season. So it's really hard to predict. A lot of teams are winning games who usually wouldn't win games. So who knows what the reason that is? Maybe because there's no crowd. So the way teams are performing, individual players are performing is slightly different now. So there's a question here, in fact, that I'll answer. So let's just bring this question up. So the question is, have Manchester United turned the corner? I think it's early to say. Too early to say at the moment. Last 3 games we've been really good, but 2 of those games have been in the Champions League. And the way you play in the Champions League is always slightly different to how you expect it to play in the Premiership. So in between those 3 games, you'll have 1 game in the Premiership, and it was a draw. So have we turned the corner in the Premiership? Can we turn the corner at home in the Premiership? I think that's just something that we'll have to wait and see. I think we're on the right tracks now. I think, as I've been mentioning throughout this season in all the past videos, I think the issue has mainly been to do with fitness, to do with sharpness. I think, as you can now see, we're playing completely differently now. Maybe you can say Solskjaer has tried to kind of adapt and become more tactically flexible. because he's felt maybe certain players were not fit enough, certain players were not sharp enough, and that way keeps everyone on their toes as well. Because there's different formations, which means certain players are more likely to play in those certain formations. Let's see. So let's see how it goes over the next few games. Only then we'll really know whether we have turned the corner. But yeah, we're on the right tracks. Last 3 games, we've had 2 phenomenal results. PSG away from home. I don't think anyone would have expected us to win that, and no one really would have expected us to win 5-0 at home against RB Leipzig, who reached the semi-final of the Champions League last season. So they're no mugs. So we did really well there. So yeah, 2-1. I think Manchester United may have turned the corner. We'll have to wait and see. Just before I go as well, I'd like to thank you for watching the Redflex. Thank you for supporting our channel. We are trying to build a Manchester United community here, so we really would appreciate if you would like, share, subscribe, and also follow us on our Twitter that we've got, which is at the Redflex, as you can see on the ticker at the bottom of the screen. So we would really like to hear from you as well. So whether it's on the live shows or whether it is on our Twitter account. So once again, thank you for watching. We will be back after the Arsenal game with our post-match review. I hope to see you then.